Hello, beautiful creative soul, and welcome back to another episode of Chakra-Care for the Creative Soul. Hello, I'm your host, Pollyanna Blanco, and it's an honor to be here with you today, where we're looking at, as part of a 7-part series, the solar plexus chakra. And today is an Equinox special because it's right on September 22nd that the show has miraculously fallen, and we're focusing on going beyond balancing the solar plexus chakra. And we're looking at the mental reset. And I had to smile when I saw how it all sort of unfolded, and how today we're looking at the solar plexus chakra, and how, as a light worker, you can care for your solar plexus chakra, which is really your mental body and your energetic body, because it feeds into that. So this is light worker spiritual hygiene 101. And if you identify as an ascended light worker, which you probably are, you wouldn't be drawn to watching this episode, then some of this might be a recap for you. And you might also be someone who's on your inner awakening journey and just hungry to, learn as much as possible. So I'm setting the intention that what I feel guided to, with what I feel guided to share today, there will be something for each and every one of you to take away from today's show. And also, I do invite you to share your comments, your questions in the chat. I'd love to hear from you. I really appreciated so much the engagement over the past few episodes, and it's been lovely to hear from you. Okay, so here we are at this gateway moment, and we're talking about your solar plexus chakra and how to care for it. And I just want to back up for a moment too, and just, if you're just joining this episode and you haven't caught the previous 2 episodes, I encourage you to go back and check them out. The first 3 chakras are basically what I like to call our human chakras. They're the 3 places where, when we're awakening to the fact that we're so much more than we just think we are, we're so much more than a physical body. We are a multidimensional presence in human form. These are the places where we can easily get stress stuck. We can get stuck in our stories. We can get stuck in repeating patterns and limiting beliefs and pain loops, and all of these things can leave us very energetically open to more of the stuff we don't want, rather than the stuff we are getting excited about wanting to co-create in our life. And I know that through the School of Hard Knocks myself. So that's why I feel so inspired to speak to this topic. Quite a number of years ago, my very first YouTube episode about spiritual hygiene, it's probably been my most successful episode in terms of reaching many people. That one was where I was talking about the violet flame energy. So if that's something you're kind of curious about, I would encourage you to go back and check out that episode. It's from, oh gosh, I'm thinking now, it's 4 years ago, I believe. So this is why today, if you have been experiencing a lot of resistance to change in your life in these shifting times, hand on heart, have compassion for yourself, because the final frontier in the inner awakening journey, as I humbly see it from what I've been learning so far in my own journey, is the solar plexus chakra. It happens to be the third one after the root and the sacral chakra, but it is the final frontier in the sense that it's our mental body, and our mind doesn't like change. In fact, I like to think of it as being kind of like an energetic bouncer, in the sense that it wants to keep status quo. It doesn't want to let any new energies into the club. And so it feels its main job is to fend off anything new. And this is where understanding what's going on and discerning, as I shared below the video today in the sort of intro about what we'd be talking about, is discerning how clever and sly the mind can be in terms of the self-sabotage cycle, in terms of um, keeping ourselves in alignment with the divine creative source energy that we truly are and not getting sidetracked. So today's episode is kind of unique in the sense that oftentimes when we speak about spiritual hygiene, we some people call it energetic protection. I like to call it spiritual hygiene, and I'll unpack that in a moment, is because we tend to focus on what's going on out there and things that we need to protect ourselves against out there. And today I kind of feel divinely inspired and guided to sort of flip it around a little bit. That while there may be all kinds of energies coming at us throughout the day, and, you know, as a highly sensitive person myself and an empath, as I'm sure you are, I've noticed that this has been probably the steepest learning curve in my inner awakening journey. How do I navigate it all? How do I sort out which is my energy and which is someone else's energy? And a lot of it comes through the filter of the mind, right? Because the mind is where the level of the story exists. Something you can probably relate to this. You've been in a situation and all of a sudden you notice a shift in your energy. The mind wants to understand it. The mind tends to want to make a story up about it. And that story isn't always truly helpful. And it's oftentimes not even based on anything real. It's just a perception. And then that perception can be a rabbit hole that can affect our emotional body, our physical body, and even our spiritual body in terms of the larger, perspective. And when I say larger perspective, I feel I'm sort of stumbling over my words right now. The way I sort of see the spiritual body is the greater belief, I guess you could say, we have about why we're here, how we fit into the greater picture and our purpose. So again, there's a lot of mosh pit activity, which is what I call getting kind of stuck in that tilt-a-whirl of being kind of bounced around off these different sides of meaning making in our lives. And so this is why I'm going to give you some really specific things I've been noticing in my own journey that have been pitfalls, snares, rabbit holes when it comes to the mental body. And the solar plexus chakra itself, just to kind of give a context for why I'm going to talk about those in a moment, has to do with the the sense of our identity in the world. And because it's a human chakra rather than an ascended chakra, we're still unraveling and unwinding the ego identity, right? So there's the level of the personality that very much plays into our solar plexus chakra, and how do we get a sense of who we are? Well, oftentimes the very first thing we've been taught to do is it's by what we do. What do you meet someone at a party, what do you do for a living? That identity self, that self-worth, as opposed to divine worth. Self-worth, I'm going to slow it down a little here, is of the ego mind. And I learned that again from a magnificent spiritual teacher that I'm always talking about, Master Sri Ram Ka, who's now ascended in form, in the medical intuitive training I did with him. Self-worth is a necessary step in our evolution, in our inner expansion journey. And it's not something to be disregarded. It's something to be revered. It's integral to, our self actualization, our self growth, our inner integrity, and knowing ourselves on that deeper level. Self worth is often, though, attached to those more material and personality level definitions of the self. So it's a stepping stone, whereas divine worth is where the spiritual hygiene comes in, because it's about that restoration of the sacredness of the being that you truly are in this body of form. It's a remembrance that you are light and love personified in this expression. That's how Spirit just wanted me to share it right now. Light and love personified in this expression of form. Thank you. Thank you, Spirit. So, that being said, if the solar plexus chakra is about all of that stuff about the self identity, it's also attached then to the purpose. What am I doing here? Why am I here? And this is where, one doesn't have to look too far. Oops, I bumped my mic. One doesn't have to look too far. Historically, we had people moving through movements like where they were questioning the meaning of life and existentialism. So there's so many rich opportunities for us to define what that is and looks like for ourselves at any given stage of the journey. This is all the solar plexus. Who am I? Why am I here? Do I deserve? And therein lies where we find our sense of empowerment. And you can start to begin to imagine that if I find my sense of empowerment or power in what I do, the things I have, the car, the house, the bank account, then that's a very different experience, a different perception, if you will, than the awareness that I am source energy itself, co-creating in this now moment with all the energies with, through, in, and around me, and how I show up for myself in this moment, and how well I feel in this moment, how connected I feel in this moment, how in flow and creative flow I feel in this moment. That's a very different experience. And you might have noticed too, even energetically when I shared that I like to call them the edges of the pool wall have suddenly dissolved and fallen away. And there isn't that concretization of things to hold on to define the self. So this is where, when we're talking about this topic today of the discerning where the mind can get in the way, the biggest just bullet point here is fear. The mind is the bouncer, like I said earlier a few minutes ago, and its job is to keep out the new, because the new equals unknown or uncertain, and that equals a threat. And so the mind, one of the practices recently that has really deepened for me is that, when we are stepping into change or just new experiences, new situations, or things seem to be changing, as we move through life, and maybe we feel we don't have any control over those changes, or they seem to be happening and we're just having to navigate them. This is where the mind of form comes in and tries to really use fear to kind of get a handlehold on the situation. And as we start to expand and evolve into the awareness that it's there in the first place, that's where it gets even more sophisticated. So I don't know if you've been experiencing this lately, there is, and if you identify as a light worker, one of the soul callings, and again, only take this if it resonates for you. This is something that's near and dear to my heart when I sit with it and I feel into it, is that we came here to shine light in places that are dark. In places that are dark, meaning places where people struggle, are in pain, suffer unnecessarily beyond a certain point. Like there's just, or to just be that awareness that sees through the illusion. Oh my goodness. And I don't know how much my microphone is filtering out, but this is fun today. This is a fun show because my neighbors next door are cleaning out their home, and they're moving, and there's a lot of crash, boom, and banging going on. So I love how the universe is setting this up. Hope it's not going to be too distracting on this call. So one of the snares I've noticed is if you are starting your inner healing journey and you're aware of the fact that fear is something that you're trying to move through, and you're stepping forward and you're doing your healing work, and you are experiencing some of the positive feelings of feeling lighter and calmer and more peaceful, you might notice, and this happens to everyone, so I just bring this up as a little gentle soulful reminder to notice how sly and sophisticated the mind can be, because this is the spiritual hygiene we need to do on ourselves rather than something out there. And I'll explain that in a moment why too. When I have started to do, say, a healing program or something like that, one of the things that will happen is I'll start receiving benefits. And then the mind will say, you know what? We're good. I don't need to do this anymore. You know, um, you know, I don't think it's for me. It's for somebody else who needs more healing work, right? That's one of the telltale signs. It's not your soul speaking. It's the mind of form trying to keep you back in a place where you were stuck to begin with. You're starting to move forward into the new, and it's trying to keep you in the comfort zone. So, as I was starting to share before, the crash bang boom happened over there, and it kind of did distract me for a moment because I was like, oh, OMG, what's going on over there? I will say this, that one of the great antidotes in terms of spiritual hygiene you can do is just to love your beautiful mind. I've been calling it that more and more lately than I ever have before. And then I even attracted a healing experience where she was using the same term. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a beautiful soul mirror. I started playfully calling it my beautiful mind, not out of denigration, not out of sarcasm, but out of genuine, just joyous playfulness. Thanking my beautiful mind for just doing such a good job at trying to keep me safe. It comes from that sacral chakra acceptance that, even a message I remember my mom saying to me as a child, like, just accept people for who they are. Let go of this person should be that way or that person should be this way. This is who they are. Dance with what is being shown to you and decide how you are going to show up in that instant, which is a holy instant, with and for that other person and yourself. So, that being said, love your beautiful mind in that moment. And you don't have to believe every single thought your mind gives you. This is where the discernment comes in. This is the true, as I see it, spiritual hygiene with the solar plexus chakra, bar none. And it's a practice I use many, many times throughout the day. Sometimes the mind of form, it's so slippery, it slips past my awareness, and I'm aware of that even. And so I forgive myself for that. And I keep going and I keep noticing and setting the intention to notice as much as I can. And I also let it be playful. Another snare on the journey when I was earlier in the earlier stages of my journey, and it's a never ending journey, I'll be on it forever. And I'm grateful for that, was the judgment game, right? Where I would notice I was getting maybe caught in a thought pattern that was maybe a little negative, and then I judge myself for it. And that's like sugar for the mind to form. Really, it's like a sugar high for the mind to form. Because like, oh goody, you know, let's join in on the fun, right? Let's like really ride that. And I would really ride myself um with a downward spiral of negative thoughts coming in and at me. And so sometimes, in the first example I just gave you, the mind will seem like it's your best friend. Oh, it's okay, this isn't really for you, you don't need to go any further with this healing program or this whatever it is you're doing, you're good, we're complete, so it'll seem like it's your best friend. Other times it'll be like, OMG, you just threw me under the bus, like, because you're just going to go into a judgment fest and pick on me. And so this is how fickle the mind of form can be and how quickly it can change its story. And this is why we need spiritual hygiene for our solar plexus chakra and for our mental body. And it starts with really the game of noticing what we're noticing, recognizing the snares and the pitfalls. Another thing I want to speak to, which came into my field of awareness just before this call, so I know I'm meant to share it with all of you, and that is the whole topic of, you know, shielding and protecting ourselves and energetic protection. I mean, this is what I'm talking about here. And I'm talking about it from my own unique take on it. There are many people out there who talk about it, and they talk about it in so many different ways. And it's something I've been sitting with for a long time because it's something I've needed to use in my own life. And I just want to unpack it here because with the solar plexus chakra, it can be so sophisticated, as I just showed in those past two examples, of how it can leave us in a lot of confusion energy. And this is where, again, only take what resonates for you. I'm going to go back to my take on what, you know, spiritual hygiene is. And it's, for me, it's about staying online with the divine and feeling connected to the truth of who we are, which is love and light. We are light beings. We come from source, divine creative source energy, unity, consciousness. We are all one. And so there are two different schools of thought out there about energetic protection. And one is that when we know the truth of who we are and we're connected and online, there's nothing that needs to be protected against, because that would suggest that there is duality, polarity, and it would be coming from fear. And as far as things like the law of attraction go, we would be talking about something we don't want more of in this world. And I so get that. And definitely at one point I questioned if I was doing the right thing. And then there's the other school of thought, which is, well, we live in a really soupy world. And just the same way that, we have passwords on our computer, and you know, we have locks on our doors, on our homes, and on our cars, and all these, we have umpteen different, I can give you umpteen different examples, but you know where I'm going with it, to keep ourselves, our ego selves, feeling safe and secure in the world. Where I guess it's the Greek side of me, because I am part Greek, moderation, the middle way. And I feel like it doesn't have to be either or. I feel like when I sense into it, why it can be a little bit of both depending on where we find ourselves on our journey. We don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We can have both at different times and for different reasons and different stages and phases on our journey. And I'm going to give you a concrete example of that. When I was on my journey earlier on, and that's when I was doing that video about the violet flame, which actually I started doing, gosh, over 20 years ago. And it really helped me at a time in my life when I was just literally awakening to my spiritual nature and getting out of 3D, living with baby steps. And there was a lot going on in my personal life, and there was a serious illness with a family member that threw everything into a tilt-a-whirl. And I just felt so much better after I did the violet flame decrees every morning. And I did them for 3 years religiously. And beautiful things started emerging and coming forward and showing up in my life as a result. And quite a number of years later, that's when I felt inspired to share that video, because I was also going through another extremely um, interesting and rich time of learning and soul growth in my life. And so that was when I revisited the practice. There have been moments, and again, everyone's exactly where they need to be, where I've been noticing that, um, and this is one of the reasons why I call it spiritual hygiene and not energetic protection, is that yes, I feel more and more as the layers of healing dissolve, the interference and the confusion that were there in the past and aren't anymore, and the clarity is becoming stronger and more vibrant and more joyous, that uh, the way I look at protecting myself has shifted. It's not so much a focus on protection as a focus on um, staying. And I'm choosing my words carefully here, because I have a sort of a default saying, but it doesn't really capture um, the essence of what I'm speaking of. So I'm just going to sit with it for a moment to be in integrity, because sometimes when I'm just saying it to myself, I'll sort of do the default saying, but I know it's not really fully in alignment. For me, it's about, again, I'm just, Spirit's asking me to circle back and just say, online with the divine, like, just, it's about keeping it simple. It's about remembering I am source itself, divine creative source itself. We all are. Each and every one of us is. We just are expressing that in different ways. So the protection piece is, it's not about protecting myself against something or something out of there. It's about dissolving anything that would seek to keep me um, confused about that, confused that something out there is doing something to me. So it's more about taking a look at myself and about where the stickiness is, where something feels uncomfortable or threatening to me. Now, that being said, it's not that I don't use, um, as I've shared in some of the other videos, like the root chakra, like I do have a morning ritual where I revoke any, manufactured, manipulated, or coerced consent onto any inorganic timelines. I do say statements like that. It's just the felt sense inside of me. I've shifted from this feeling that there's something out there that's a threat that I need to protect myself against. Now, that being said, there have been very real moments in my life, like back in 2023, when I had a car accident through no fault of my own. And after that, I was hyper vigilant, hyper vigilant. Those are the moments when something like that happens in our lives, where what I've been experiencing on my own journey so far, that's when we need the spiritual hygiene. And maybe we even need to reassure our ego mind that it's energetic protection. That's when we really, really need it. I feel like the energetic protection piece is a necessary um, phase of the journey to get us to a place where we start to shift seeing it as energetic protection and seeing it as spiritual hygiene. So, like, energetic protection is help me untangle myself from all of these interference energies and confusion and snares. And then spiritual hygiene is I've done the inner work, I've done the cleansing, clearing, shielding, and realigning with source energy. And now I'm in a feeling like I'm in a sustaining a better place. How do I continue to sustain that? How do I continue to nourish those good feelings? So I feel like when there are dips, because sometimes things can really catch us off guard in life and we drop down and I think, oh my gosh, I thought I did my inner healing. I thought this was in the rear view mirror. How did I get here again? There's another layer of something that's dissolving, that's healing, that's showing up in our experience so that we can continue to grow and expand, and also to prepare us to be the light leaders that we came here to be, to prepare us to be that person who's like, okay, I don't need to do any more karmic learning. I'm here to lead with my light and to be that voice of illumination in the world. And it's not that there won't still be learning, but that's not the focus. The focus is about sharing the truth, sharing the awareness, sharing the embodiment. And it's not, it can be teaching, and it can just be being. I mean, I feel like that's the ultimate, is just to integrate and embody all the learning that has brought us to this point, to a point where we're less focused on learning our soul lessons and more focused on just being that which we are. And that's how we, again, when we do that, we as light workers nourish and feed the grid lines on the planet. And the last piece I just felt really strongly guided to mention today, this might feel a little bit like a stew today, because it's not, your conventional, perhaps, if there is such a one, I don't know, maybe there isn't, on this topic. It's just what Spirit was downloading to me today to share, is that another clever coping mechanism, and I'm going to call it a spiritual coping mechanism, that I've noticed on my own journey, and again, only take it if it resonates for you, is that there is this sometimes desire, and I know I've had it on my own journey, when I start identifying as being a light worker, recognizing that I am divine source creative energy itself, and it feels so good to be in that joyous state. In all truth, there have been moments, I used to call it, in my earlier stages, seeking to surf moonbeams and rainbows, because I was craving that connection. Then when I started to feel that connection more and more, which is such a blessing, then it was like, beam me up, Scotty. I'm not from this place. I don't, this isn't even my true home. I'm off planet somewhere, and I have the courage and confidence to share that now. I mean, I've often felt that I was originally from Sirius. Seriously, seriously Syrian. And so when that starts to emerge in the field, there can be a lot of mental resistance to it. And that can shut us down. And beyond that, what I've noticed is the mind gets really sophisticated, like I said. I see this as a spiritual coping mechanism, that the mind kind of tag teams with the spirit, and it's consciousness that is the discernment, that those two are in cahoots together. And what I mean by that is, our souls chose to be here in this incarnation on Mother Earth. The word mater in Latin means mother, right? We came here to be beings of matter in a material world, anchoring the spiritual into it. So another way to look at it is, Mother Earth is dreaming us into being. Mother Earth is dreaming us into being. Breathe that one in for a second. And so imagine what kind of relationship we are dancing with. If let's just take this away from Mother Earth for a second, and imagine you're in a romantic relationship, or even a friendship relationship, family relationship, doesn't really matter. And you're saying, I'm here, but I don't want to be here. Like, it gets transactional, right? I'll be here until it's not fun to be here. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's a lot going on the earth right now, and it's overwhelming, and it's downright, it's a lot to take in. And yet the earth isn't something that we're standing on. We are the earth. We are earth consciousness, informed by divine consciousness. So if we want to be in partnership with this energy, this earth energy, as much as the spiritual off-planet energy, and integrate it to create heaven, co-create heaven on earth together. It's no different than wanting to also have that harmonious partnership with all aspects of our being, our mind, our body, our spirit, our heart, emotions, physical, mental, spiritual, through our consciousness. So again, it goes back to spiritual hygiene is about consciousness and what it reveals. What it reveals, it will heal. It'll restore the wholeness. And so if we want to I see the solar plexus as being like that final step before we cross the bridge into the healed heart, which we'll get to next week. And so if the root chakras, all, just to recap really briefly about, safety, feeling safe in our body, and so that we can be anchor peace on this planet. If the sacral chakra is about our relationships and transforming them through love and forgiveness and acceptance into a non-transactional partnership based in the truth of love, and the solar plexus is about restoring, the joy of being, and heal the powers seeking out of fear to feel safe and loved. This is the integration piece, and that sort of stabilization of the human chakras, the human perception of, why am I here? What am I doing here? Who am I? And when we begin to have ways to take care of ourselves, to keep our energy, not just authentically who we are, but connected to consciousness, because again, it's that still point that connects the sense of separation to the sense of unity, and helps us through our conscious awareness to begin to notice those places where every aspect of us is doing its job so well, and yet we can see it for what it is. We can see the mind just trying to be the bouncer. We can see, our emotions in the sacral chakra just trying to keep us feeling vital and alive and juicy. We can see our physical body just trying to, feel that it has the right to be here, the right to be seen and heard, and to take up space, and to be fully embodied. When we can start to see that every aspect of ourself is doing what it knows to do, and we're not trying to change it, we're just trying to notice it and dance with it, and consider its gifts, and also where its perspective begins and ends, so that we don't expect something of it. Like, you don't expect a 2-year-old to be able to do calculus, and that doesn't make the 2-year-old any less capable. It's a 2-year-old is doing exactly what a 2-year-old is meant to do, and really well, and we love that 2-year-old for being a 2-year-old. We don't expect it to be a calculus student in grade 12. And so this is how, as we adjust our dials, our internal dials, that is the spiritual hygiene. That is the restoration of how we have all these different feedback loops inside of us that can offer us insight, that can offer us a sense of who we are beyond what we might have thought in the past, a richness, a complexity that we can, if you see it as like we've got this, it starts to feel really complex. And at the same time, the paradox is it's actually really simple too. We've got all these different nuances and permutations and angles. It's like a kaleidoscope. You shift it one way, you shift it another way, and things slightly look differently. You have all these different vantage points from which to integrate and hear from. It's like a boardroom table where everyone's sitting around it and they're all sharing their point of view. And it's your consciousness itself that's integrating it, that's weaving it, that's dancing with it, that's swaying with it, that's leaning one way, leaning the other way, bringing it back to center, wrapping it up, putting a bow on top. That's the beauty of the spiritual hygiene. It's not about so much protecting ourselves from threats out there as it is about restoring the wholeness through illumination, through awareness, and through appreciation of the inner riches that we truly do have. And so as we do that, day by day, moment by moment, lovingly noticing, calling back, it's like you invite more of the good stuff in, and then the old stuff, the old ways of being, experiencing, dissolve and fall away. So rather than the complexity being, I need to do this energetic protection for this situation and this energetic protection for that situation, it's more about what do I need to notice inside of myself in any given moment. And there will be times where everything will be heightened. Like I said, when I had my car accident, that's when everything was really heightened. Old, boxes from the basement inside my psyche, cobweb boxes were like broken open, and yeah, safety was back up on the table to be dusted off and looked through. And so at that point in time, because that's where I could consciously recognize fear was present, what reassured my ego mind was, hey, let's do some energy protection. Let's call on Archangel Uriel and Michael while we're driving in the car. And if that helps the ego mind to feel calmer, then that's what I'm going to offer the ego mind. It's not the end all and be all, and it's necessary, and so I know I have a very unique way of unpacking all of this and looking at it. I hope you've been able to track with me in what I've been sharing. If you have any questions, I'm going to go to the chat now and just see if there's anyone there with a question or a comment. And let me just check and see. Oh, thank you so much. There's a nice comment here. Happy to have caught this live. Thank you so much, Sal, for being here. And just before I wrap things up, I wanted to share with you too that coming up soon, I'm going to be doing, there we go. I'm going to be doing a book club coming up mid-October, and I'll be sharing more information in upcoming shows about it. And if you'd like to also be the first to hear about it, you can sign up for my newsletter. Just go to www.pollyannablanco.com, and there, as soon as you land on my website, just give it about 30 seconds, or you can actually click on my menu and look for the newsletter too. You'll also get a free 30-minute, it's Root Chakra, It's Safe to Be Creative, downloadable 30-minute subconscious clearing audio, which is a really powerful healing audio. And In Rhythm with Your Soul, this is the book that really, oh gosh, where do I even begin? It changed my life on so many levels. And this is why I'm so passionate about what I do, because my deepest wish is that we all trust ourselves more. We trust our creative impulses, and we listen to our intuition, and we choose joy over suffering. And I know when we're moving through the birthing process, when we're rebirthing ourselves, when we're remembering who we truly are, there can be a lot of turbulence, and it can feel downright messy, and there can be contractions along the way. And those contractions are usually the mental body, fear squeeze, trying to keep us safe, right? And this book almost didn't happen until it did. It took me 10 years to write it. And so in and of itself, this book is a miracle. And so this is why I feel inspired. It's the 10th anniversary of it, and I'm going to be hosting a book club. You can get the book on my website. I also believe I'm in Canada. In the US, I think there's a book reseller that sells it on Amazon.com as well too for $16.95 USD. If you want it from my website, then I can send you an author signed copy of it as well. And so, yes, that's something that's coming up. And it's going to be so much more than a book club. I'm sitting with Spirit because I just know, and I'll be sharing more as Spirit shares more with me about it'll be a book club plus more, because there's so much in this book that wants to be in the hands of those that are at this tipping point in their own lives where they know that there's something more they came here to do, be, and express, and yet they're maybe not clear on what it is. Maybe the mind is playing the shell game with them, saying, no, you just need to do this over here. No, you need to go over here. And all it is doing is trying to keep you safe and keep you from getting started. Or once you do get started, keep you back sitting down where you once were before, thinking woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? So this is why this book, I feel like now, 10 years later, is so important to get out there into the world, into more hands than it's already gotten into so far. And once the copies are gone, that's it. There'll be no more of these books out there because I won't be doing another print run. So at that point, it might very well become a rare book. So I do encourage you, if that's something that you're interested in, just send me an email at info@pollyannablanco.com or comment below that you're interested in joining the club. And then I will be in touch with you and make sure you get details on it. I want to keep it small and intimate too. This isn't about getting a gazillion people in there. This is about creating conscious community and a place where people feel safe, where they can share. Because at the end of the day, this was a passion project, and it's just, I just honored what Spirit was asking me to co-create at a time in my life that was actually incredibly difficult too. I'll share more in the club about that. But I'm so glad I listened, and I just know there are other people out there who, who the world will be so much better if you listen to and trust yourself and share your sacred soul gifts with the world. So that's near and dear to my heart. And trust me, I thought, who am I to write a book? That's the trick of the mind too. So happy that you've been here with me today. Whether you're watching live or on the replay, thank you, Sal, for your comment. And I look forward to connecting with all of you next week when we're going to be moving into the heart chakra, the bridge. How do we keep the heart chakra stabilized? And I didn't even use that word today. OMG, I got so into what I was sharing. Yeah, beyond balancing the solar plexus is about stabilizing it. And the stabilizing comes from our consciousness. I just want to put a little bow on top of that too, to make sure that's really clear. What I mean by, opening our chakras is all about noticing that we have this feedback loop. Balancing them is about doing things that we, can in our everyday lives to, not be searching for power in ways that are maybe coping mechanisms, rather in ways that are more empowering. That's the balancing part. But the stabilizing part is the consciousness itself, noticing everything that's going on, so that then when we notice what we're noticing, we are in that place of non-judgment. We're in that place of receptivity. We're in that place of curiosity and wonder. And actually, Spirit's guiding me to share one last thing. Boy, this is becoming a longer show this week, but I'm just trusting everything that I'm being guided to share, because I know this is for someone, and I was intending to share it today, and it just went under the radar, and now it's back again. So I'm going to really trust this before I close. There's someone out there who's listening to this either live or on the replay, who has been telling themselves, I have to change. I have to try to change, or something like that. Or why isn't this changing? Or this never changes. There's something like that, that someone I'm feeling and sensing is saying that to themselves. And here's what I want to offer you to chew on and see if it speaks to you as well. I invite you to play with saying to yourself instead, I wonder if, and then what follows that is, let's start with peace and calm. I wonder if I felt more calm and peaceful, what that would look like, feel like, be like for me. I wonder if just in this moment, not next week, not for 2 hours from now, just right now, I wonder if right now, if I were just calm and peaceful, what would that look like and feel like for me? Could that be possible? Invite your mind into that dance. Forget about whatever you think, and that's carefully chosen word there. You think you need to change, and see what happens. That's your, I don't want to say your homework, but that's something for your spiritual playground to go toss that one around and see what happens as a result of shifting to, I wonder if I had more peace and calm. And caveat, if what you're trying to change or would like to see changed in your life, say it's, I don't know, it might be a relationship or a job. Let's use a job, for example. I want to change my job. The caveat here is not to say, I wonder if I were to change my job, because immediately your mind is going to come in and just be like, no. It's going to say no right off the bat. Instead, ask yourself, well, why do you want to change your job? Is it because your job is stressful? So like, again, in the example I just offered, instead, play with the possibility, I wonder if I felt calm and peaceful right now. What would that look like and feel like? And start from there and see what is revealed to you. Notice what you're noticing. Notice your body, notice your emotions, notice your thoughts, notice your spirit, and go from there. And I hope you'll join us next week. And I'd love to hear how it went for you, whoever you are. Maybe there's more than one of you out there. This is something I've been playing with in my own life for many years, and it's come back onto my radar screen recently, and I'm having fun with it. And I'm finding it's revealing beautiful and interesting things to me. So I toss that one out there too, because I trust it's going to be helpful for you also. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Lots of love and light. Wishing you a phenomenal week ahead. And remember, right now, you are so much more than you think you are. In these equinox energies at this time of rebirth, everything is possible. Absolutely everything is possible. You get to choose. Be well, beautiful, creative soul. Lots of love and light.